Hello, hello. If you are here looking for hip exercises for hypermobility, then you have landed in the right place. I'm Nicole of Sheldrake Pilates for hypermobility, and I am going to show you one of my favorite hypermobile hip exercises right now. I have a bunch of other hip exercises for hypermobile mobility on my channel. You can check out this one right up here that I've linked. If you're ready to do one now, then you're going to come down into this high kneeling position and then come out to the Captain Morgan position. Feel free to support your knee if you need it. Now, a lot of exercises for hypermobility start on your back because you get great support for your pelvis and you can really focus there. But if you're looking for something a little bit different, but still focused on hip exercises for hypermobility, then this is a great place to start. You want your knee either over your ankle, or you could have your foot a little bit farther forward. And you want your opposite leg bringing the ankle in and a little bit of external rotation. This foot can be as far forward as you need to have fairly even hips, so you're not hiked. You can stay nice and tall. And actually, we're going to practice that first for our first hip exercise. You're going to think, here's your hip bone. You're going to think of pulling that up towards your ribs and then reaching your sitting bone down towards the floor. So hip bone's going to come up towards the rib. Ooh, and you might feel that in your hip. And then that sitting bone's going to come down towards the floor. Try that a couple more times. Ooh, we're getting some work in there. And then you're going to drop that hip down towards the floor and hold. Now, I'd like you to hold your hips nice and even. And you can give yourself a little bit of feedback with your hands. You can always look down. And then you're going to shift your hips to the side and go into a little bit of a lunge. And then come on back to center. We'll do that a couple more times, shifting over and then a lunge. And then as we do this, I want you to notice, are your hips leading the way or is your rib cage leading the way? Can you stay completely vertical in your spine as you move over all in one piece? And you can always walk your foot out a little bit more if you feel you need a little bit more range. And you want to think your heart is staying right above your belly button as you shift over and back. So your belly button isn't leading the way and your heart is not leading the way, but they are going together, heart and belly moving together. One more, shift, and then come on back. Good. You're going to stay in this position. And now we're going to try and move the pelvis around the legs. So this is going to look like a tilt forward of your pelvis and a tilt backward. So pubic bone towards belly button, and then belly button tilts towards the floor, pubic bone going back underneath you. So a tuck and then an extension. A tuck and an extension. And again, you want your heart just to remain right above your pelvis. And your legs are going to stay pretty stable. So notice if there's any shifting from side to side. Remain nice and heavy and make the movement smaller if you need to keep the legs stable and the spine nice and tall. And then come on back to center and rest. After you've had a little rest, we're going to add on. Come back up to that high kneeling position. Step your foot out to the side. This time, I'd like the vertical thigh, the knee that's on the floor, I want that to internally rotate. So you're going to bring your foot out to the side, right? So now we're changing up what's happening in the hip, but we still want our hips, our hip bones pointing forward, and this leg can go out to the side, probably be a little farther forward for this exercise. All right, so your legs are almost in one line. You could turn this way, but that's not what's going to happen. You're going to keep the hips forward and feel free to adjust for the range of motion of your hip. All right, we're going to try again with a hip shift back, and with our thigh in a different position, it's going to exercise those hip muscles differently than with the thigh in external rotation. But we're still maintaining control through the center and shifting towards the leg, bringing the weight onto that foot a little bit more, and trying to stay super tall and aligned in the spine as we shift. All right, we're going to shift over and we're going to hold this time. And then from here, you're going to do that pelvic tilt, pubic bone to belly button, and then reach the pubic bone underneath you. You're going to bring your pubic bone forward, tuck, and then reach it underneath you. 2 more, tuck, and reach, and tuck, and reach, and then come back to a neutral spine and back to center and rest. For the last add-on, we're stepping it up a little bit more. You're going to shift over and hold in this position, and then lift and lower that heel. Ooh. Just lift it an inch off the floor and down. So you're not lifting up into maybe some hypermobility in the ankle. You're just floating it an inch off and then lower it down. Can you maintain that tall spine? Whew. Can you feel some work happening through the center and through the legs? And then come on back to center and relax. Don't forget to do your other side. If you enjoyed that exercise, definitely check out my Strong and Stable Hips playlist on my channel. I'll link to it down below, and I will see you in the next video.